Oil prices could surge. EV battery supply chains are shifting. America's financial dominance is suddenly facing serious new threats, and the automotive industry may end up directly caught in the middle of it all. As tensions rise across the Middle East, cracks are beginning to appear in the decades-old petrodollar system that helped keep the US dollar at the center of global trade. Meanwhile, China is expanding its grip on critical minerals and industrial supply chains, while Canada quietly emerges as one of the biggest winners of the global energy reshuffle. Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. And here are the major developments reshaping the future of global trade and the automotive industry. Petrodollar crisis. America's financial engine starts failing. For decades, the petrodollar system acted like the V8 engine powering American financial dominance. After the 1974 agreement between Washington and Saudi Arabia, oil transactions were largely conducted in US dollars, forcing nations worldwide to maintain massive dollar reserves. That arrangement helped stabilize Treasury demand while giving America enormous influence over global finance. But today, geopolitical instability and energy disruptions are beginning to expose weaknesses in that framework. The UAE stunned financial markets after signaling greater independence from OPEC, while reports surfaced suggesting Gulf nations may consider non-dollar energy settlements if regional instability worsens. That possibility immediately alarmed investors because Gulf nations collectively hold more than $2 trillion in American assets. If even part of those holdings were rapidly liquidated, bond markets and manufacturing investment could experience severe volatility, including sectors heavily tied to automotive production and transportation costs. But the Gulf states are not the only players preparing for a new financial order. China is rapidly accelerating its own strategy to reduce dependence on US-centered trade systems while expanding influence across global manufacturing and commodity markets. China's trade expansion. Global power balance starts shifting. While Washington attempts to defend the existing system, China is steadily engineering an alternative financial network built around trade, industrial leverage, and commodity influence. Beijing understands that controlling payment infrastructure can be just as powerful as controlling oil fields or semiconductor factories. That strategy is becoming increasingly visible across energy agreements, logistic investments, and mineral supply chains critical to the automotive sector. Before the UAE signaled major shifts within OPEC, Chinese President Xi Jinping secured extensive cooperation deals with Gulf nations covering finance, industrial manufacturing, and transportation infrastructure. Meanwhile, countries like Iran and India have already experimented with yuan-based energy transactions outside traditional dollar systems. Even mining giants are expanding non-dollar commodity agreements. For automakers, this matters enormously because China already dominates large sections of EV battery production, lithium refining, and rare earth processing that modern electric vehicles increasingly depend upon. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting for North America, because while global powers battle for financial influence, Canada is quietly positioning itself as one of the biggest beneficiaries of this economic transformation. Canada's resource boom. America's neighbor suddenly gains power. While Gulf nations wrestle with financial uncertainty and the global reserve system grows increasingly unstable, Canada is quietly becoming one of the biggest winners of the worldwide commodities reshuffle. New trade data shocked analysts after Canada posted a massive trade surplus instead of the expected deficit, fueled by surging energy, mineral, and metals exports. Even more significant, Canada's export dependence on the United States dropped to historic lows as shipments to Asia and Europe rapidly expanded. Oil flowing through the Trans Mountain Pipeline is increasingly heading toward China and other Asian buyers, while Canadian LNG and aluminum exports are gaining momentum globally. For the automotive sector, this matters enormously. Canada controls critical reserves of nickel, lithium, cobalt, uranium, and rare earth minerals essential for EV batteries and semiconductor production, positioning the country as a future heavyweight in North American vehicle manufacturing and industrial supply chains. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the future of the automotive world, take a second to smash that like button, subscribe to Piston Pundit, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next major vehicle update or industry shift. Because once energy markets, mineral supply chains, and geopolitical alliances begin changing simultaneously, automakers themselves are suddenly forced directly into the center of the storm. Auto industry shockwave, global trade chaos hits hard. Modern vehicle manufacturing no longer depends solely on horsepower, engineering, or flashy technology. Today's automotive industry runs on stable energy markets, reliable trade routes, affordable raw materials, and geopolitical stability. Once those systems begin shifting, the entire sector feels immediate pressure. Rising oil prices increase shipping and manufacturing costs across North America, while aluminum and steel volatility directly impact truck profitability and vehicle pricing. Battery production also depends heavily on critical minerals, increasingly tied to geopolitical competition. Automakers now face a future where trade alliances and resource security may matter as much as engine development or EV innovation. Canada's growing influence could reshape long-term manufacturing strategies because the country possesses abundant oil reserves, hydroelectric power, LNG infrastructure, and strategic minerals. Companies investing billions into EV factories must now evaluate not only consumer demand, but also future commodity access, trade stability, and global political risk. And that brings us to the bigger picture, because what we are witnessing may ultimately reshape far more than oil markets or trade routes. It could redefine the future balance of global industrial power itself. Verdict: global economic realignment could transform cars forever. What we are witnessing may become far bigger than a temporary trade dispute or another energy crisis. The global financial system itself is beginning to evolve as countries diversify away from traditional dollar dependence while competing for control over energy, minerals, manufacturing, and industrial influence. For the automotive world, the consequences could be enormous because every vehicle depends on stable supply chains, affordable commodities, and predictable global logistics. Canada is rapidly strengthening its position as a critical supplier of energy and EV minerals, while China continues expanding its financial and industrial influence across international markets. The big question now is whether the United States and its allies can stabilize the existing system before these structural shifts permanently alter global economic power. So what do you think? Do you think the petrodollar system is truly weakening? Could Canada become the next automotive manufacturing powerhouse? Which automakers are best prepared for this global transition? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. For the latest updates on the automotive world and more in-depth analysis, subscribe to Piston Pundit and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.